listening to Travel Agent Chatter, Volume 21. Travel Agent Chatter is a series produced by the team here at Host Agency Reviews every quarter. In today's TAC episode, our guest will be talking about how she specializes in entertainment or production travel, which for some of you may be a new nook in the travel industry. So, whether or not you book production travel, you'll want to stay tuned in because the approach our guest takes can be applied to any advisor that works with groups or is looking to rebrand their business. Because we'll also be discussing how to successfully pull off a complete rebrand, how our guest came to the decision to start charging fees during the pandemic, tips on having a remote team, and building in social responsibility into your business. So today's guest is not only the CEO of a team of 6 ladies, she's a mom to 2-year-old and a 7-year-old with a decade of experience under her belt as a travel advisor to musical stars. So it's very likely that she's had a hand in bringing some of your favorite musical artists to venues around the world. And just a quick note before we dive in, the HAR team is busy cooking up our second annual Host Week, which we're very excited about. So mark your calendars for January 23rd through 29th, where we'll be hearing from keynote speakers across the industry. There will be tons of host agency interviews so you can get to know them a little bit better. Special discounts from hosts and other industry partners that are exclusive for Host Week, and a lot of other fun stuff. So get your free spot by going to hostagencyreviews.com/hostweek. Now, without further ado, let's get on to the show.
Experience the elegance of a Uniworld luxury river cruise. From the stunning ships to the 5-star cuisine, everything is included and every detail is carefully designed to make your journey unforgettable. Contact your travel advisor or visit uniworld.com.
Well, hello. Happy days, everybody. I feel like it has been ages since we last chatted. I miss you because every Friday we normally get to connect via our Friday 15 podcast, but I've been not feeling so well lately with a vasculitis flare, and Maureen has been a huge champ the past few months in heading that up. So the good news is that I've saved up all my energy for this episode of Travel Agent Chatter, and I am so excited to pick the brain of Molly Williams. She is the CEO of the Optimists Travel. It's a production travel company located just a few miles here from HAR in Minneapolis. So if you are not sure what production travel or entertainment travel is, do not worry. You are not alone. It's a niche, and it's a smaller niche in the travel industry. So Molly's agency is one that helps bands like Britney, who doesn't really need a last name, the Black Eyed Peas, Pearl Jam, and Soundgarden. She brings the music to their fans around the world. So it doesn't really get much cooler than booking music stars and their team around the world, except for it does, because Molly has pulled off an enormously successful rebrand of her agency during the pandemic. And I'm telling you, if you're looking for rebranding inspiration, this story is a must listen. So before I introduce Molly, a really quick reminder that Travel Agent Chatter comes in a variety of formats. So you can listen to it in the podcast. You can watch the video on our YouTube channel, or you can read the transcript at hostagencyreviews.com/TAC. And you can also find the show notes there with links to any resources we mentioned. Let's see. Now, this is episode 21, as we mentioned earlier, and today's schedule is going to be broken down into 5 segments. So the first one is beginnings. We'll talk about how Molly got to where she is. We'll discuss production travel, and then we'll move into her rebrand and talk about tips and resources. And then the last one will be our warm fuzzy segment. So I think I've built up enough suspense already. Molly, welcome to Travel Agent Chatter.
Thank you. Hi, how are you?
Oh, good. It's so good to have you on the show. I feel like the last time, well, I guess not the last time we talked, but we got to work together a little bit earlier, maybe last year around this time, on Asta's roadmap to becoming a travel advisor course, because you did kind of the GDS segment and taught people what it's like to work in the GDS system.
Yeah, book a flight, book a hotel.
Yeah. Yeah. So if anyone's interested in seeing Molly, if they just can't get enough of her through this podcast, you can also, we'll put a link to Asta's roadmap to becoming a travel advisor course. It's a great course. I led it, and Molly was one of the people that helped me. And you can get it for, let's see, I think it's half off if you use code HAR, HAR 149. So you can get it $149. So But anyhow, why I bring that up is because while we were doing that kind of tutorial, there was this poster of Britney Spears, or I call her Brit because that's what I imagine friends would call her. But there's a picture of like Britney Spears world tour in the background. And that really planted my seed that Molly would be a fantastic guest to talk to about her little nook within the travel industry. So here we are. And Molly, you weren't always a travel advisor to music legends. You graduated with a degree in communication. So how did you end up in production travel?
Let's see. Yeah. So I graduated from the University of Minnesota with a degree in journalism and public relations. And thanks to my experience studying abroad the year prior to that, I knew that I did not want a normal desk job and I wanted to travel. So right after college, I moved to London, bartended there for a year, traveled around Europe, and just kind of nurtured that travel bug of mine that I had in my 20s that was insatiable. So after I came back from Europe, I started working in event marketing, experiential marketing. Like I was the Apple Teeny girl doing Apple Pucker promotions downtown Minneapolis.
I knew you looked familiar.
10 nights a week, I like to say. So I did that and I started working regularly with a company called GMR Marketing out of Milwaukee. And it just kind of did those, like project management, tour management over these brand activations. And through that, I ended up on a longer program with Major League Baseball, had a hotel per diem, but we drove a van like 11 months a year sponsoring music events and corporate events and baseball events with a Major League Baseball roadshow, which was like 250-foot semi trucks that converted into apparel display, batting cages, pitching cages, video gaming, and that kind of thing. So that's how I got my foot in the door on music touring. So with Major League Baseball, we sponsored Project Revolution, which was Lincoln Park's festival tour. This was like 2003, maybe 2003, 4. So then we were on tour with, 10 bands and several other sponsors, kind of doing the whole country in the summer. And so that's how I got into music touring. After that, I met my husband on that job. He was a personal security guard for Lincoln Park, and we would do Major League Baseball brings you batting practice with Lincoln Park and radio station winners in each city. So we got to know, their whole team. And shortly after that, they were looking for a production coordinator for their next world tour. And they asked me.
Wow.
So that's how I started music touring. So I kind of came into it from the travel side, knowing I want to travel for whatever I do for work, having, studied in Europe and studied German language and just really wanted to, continue to see the world in whatever I did. And then, yeah, so that was an exciting opportunity. And I started touring in 2005 and toured like full time a year round until 2013. And I started the travel agency in 2012, knowing that I was kind of getting ready to move on from full time touring and wanted to start a family. And I was tour managing the Jacksons, the brothers. And that's what this plaque. It's a plaque, Steph. It's not a poster. Okay.
I'm so embarrassed. My naivety is really showing here.
Here's the new one.
Oh, hey, Britt.
Good one.
It's so good to see you.
Yeah, let's get Brit in the picture there. So yeah, so I was working with the Jackson brothers and was kind of just getting ready to wrap up a life of being on the road all the time, and did some research and found Travel Quest in Albertville, Minnesota, which is where I live in the general metro, and kind of started putting the pieces together and started the agency in 2012 as Smart and Savvy Travel.
Yeah, and that's the year I started mine too. So we're definitely, I feel like both of our degrees, I guess comms kind of isn't with yours, but mine was an environmental education and liberal studies. So Super glad I got that because it's very helpful for what I'm doing today.
Exactly.
Well, let's
Yes.
dig into
Yeah.
things a little bit more. So, compared to more traditional leisure agencies, there aren't as many agencies that specialize in production travel or entertainment travel. Would you mind breaking down for us what exactly production travel entails?
Yeah. I
It's going to be a tough one. It's going to be a
mean,
doozy.
in my experience, it's, a lot of hotels, group blocks, normally small to large group blocks, depending on, what the production is. If it's a theater or an opening act artist who's doing nightclubs, or in my case, we do primarily live music and entertainment. So I don't know as much about the TV and film side of it as I do about touring. But if you have a stadium tour, you're going to have 120 plus people on tour moving this thing around. So, yeah, we do a lot of large group hotel room blocks, a lot of flights, a lot of flights. Most of our clients travel primarily on tour bus, which is, full size sleeper coach with like 9 to 12 sleeper bunks. So, not like a sit up coach bus. So for domestic tours, they're going to be on tour buses and have hotels, every other day usually. And then if it's not a bus tour, then it's flights. So a lot of flights, a lot of group flight contracts, a lot of flights in the GDS and hotels. And then anything that, supplements that, if it's ground transportation from hotel, airport to hotel in every city, if you're not doing a bus, if you're doing, A level artists, you're doing greeters in every city, private, private planes, depending on needs. Yeah. So it's logistic, getting everybody from A to B.
So, you're like essentially the really like hip and sexy version of a TMC, is what I'm hearing. Is that right?
Yes, but I don't even really know much about TMC. So I couldn't really, I can't really compare because I don't have
Yeah.
experience on the corporate.
Yeah. So, it feels like you're doing groups, which is why I think like for any advisor listening to this, that it's applicable even if they're not doing production or entertainment travel because you're moving around these big groups, you're negotiating things. Because tell us a little bit about like when the groups, because I feel like production travel has some special needs. Like, these people they live their lives on the road. It's not like school band going for summer trip somewhere.
Right. Right.
So it's like they have like things they want for their team members in the lobby, and you do a packet to get ready for everybody when they go to the hotel. So tell us more about that.
Yeah, I mean, we, create and submit for all of our groups a hotel instruction letter or a rider. A lot of times a rider is thought of as a dressing room, the green M&Ms thing. Well, it's like, yes, that is where, that information would live, but for the most part it's like, we're going to arrive in this kind of bus. You're going to, here's your contact information for arrival, estimated times of arrival, like please honor the do not disturbs because our group is not sleeping normal hours. Those kind of things. So you have to kind of, go through these things and, work with each hotel to get all the billing details arranged and that kind of thing. And then, yeah, I mean, when you get into A level artists, I mean, there's a lot of, you might be doing a lot of custom hotel details, and you may even have a travel advance person that flies ahead to each city to get the hotels arranged for the group, depending on how high the needs are for the group.
Yeah, because one of the other things that you mentioned that surprised me is a big challenge is the parking for the buses with the hotels and making sure they understand like it's not just enough to say you have parking for the buses, that it will actually be available is key.
Well, where is it? How much does it cost? I mean, a lot of times you have to work with the city to bag the meters. So
Mm.
the hotel hopefully, will liaise with us to liaise with the city, and then they bag the meters for a certain cost, like buying out, the meter through a permit through the city every day. I mean, if you're in downtown Minneapolis, you'll see it a lot, all around the Grand Hotel and the Marquette, and you'll have buses on every different corner if you've got a big tour in town. So yeah, bus parking, that's a very important thing.
And when you talk about like entertainment friendly hotels, how do you find who these entertainment friendly hotels are in every city? What's the easiest way to do that?
Well, we have a little secret resource at our hand.
Not a secret anymore,
Yeah.
Molly.
It's called Tour Connection, which is a company out of Michigan that is wonderful resource to entertainment travel agents. But it's like a request for proposal system where entertainment hotels are part of the Tour Connection network. And then entertainment travel agents have request for proposal system where we can put in our needs and send it out, to a city. So I know it's similar to what people use like Cvent.
Yeah, I was gonna say it
Uh,
sounds a lot like Cvent.
it's exactly that. I've heard. I haven't used Cvent because again, we don't do like corporate meetings, but it's like that. So Tour Connection is what we use for that, which is amazing. And then they also host gatherings or whatever, get-togethers like 3 or 4 times a year. And if we travel to them like conference, they have a trade show, and then we get to meet the sales reps from the hotels that we end up working with, very regularly every year or whatever. So of
Mhm.
course it was a tough year during the pandemic and a lot of big changes made in those networks. But yeah, that's our primary resource.
Yeah, we'll put links to Cvent and Tour Connection in the show notes for if anyone's interested in kind of checking those out. One of the things I noticed on your site, that's one of the services you provide, is data and budget management. What exactly does that mean? What does that entail?
Well, for data management, like basically personnel, so we have tours that or we do some companies, a lot of like some vendor companies that support touring, like a security company where we handle all the travel for their team wherever they're going because they do different festivals and events. So we do their personnel management. So basically creating for them for their use, with everybody's travel details and then keeping them updated and alerting them when people's passports are about to expire and that kind of management of their group data. So when they have somebody that's replaced, we are a central location for them where they know that, we've got everything because we've done their travel for the last several years and we're going to have these people's preferences already on file.
We had talked about, and I'm forgetting the name, of course, again, even though you've told it to me numerous times, but the client portal that you have people where they
Oh
can
yeah.
log in and see all these details and different things.
Yeah. Moxtra.
Mobstra.
Yeah, that's something that we implemented during the rebrand. We were looking for a way to streamline client communication and eliminate like the endless hunt for emails and attachments. Like, is that the one that had the attachment? Or there's 27 emails in that string. So we tried out a bunch of different things and researched a bunch of different things and ended up with Moxtra, which is a really cool tool. So yeah, if we have a client we're working with regularly managing their travel, like our retainer clients, we use it for receipt delivery. It's awesome. Basically it's like a joint Dropbox, Zoom, Skype, Slack, like it's all those things in one because you can communicate with them, create folders, put the things in there. You can and a DocuSign as well.
Oh,
Uh,
nice.
yeah, it's awesome.
So do they have like specific, are they focused on travel agencies or do
Nope.
they, no, okay.
Not at all. No, they're used by like Citibank. They're used by a lot of big. So it's secure. We don't do credit card collection through it. It's not a
Mhm.
PCI compliant tool for that, but it is secure. It's a secure, location for document signing. It's like the legal DocuSign. It's cool.
So it's very clear to me that with production travel, it's very time consuming to keep up with all the logistics and the moving parts. And I'm not sure, it sounds like there might be changes frequently with who's going in and out. So let's talk about fees because you had an epiphany when a whole year's worth of work was wiped out in a week during the pandemic. So tell us more about what happened there and what you decided to do.
Yeah. So prior to the pandemic, we didn't have planning fees. I mean, the fees that we charged were for flight ticketing, $40 domestic, 80 international. That had been our fees from since 2012. And then um, leisure planning. I don't do a lot of leisure, but I would do, okay, a $200 planning fee for like an extensive FIT, that I did for a client. But other than that, we didn't have a fee structure. So we just, if a client sent a tour, we just launch into it. Like now it's our stress. And, there was no financial exchange between us and our client. It was just understood that our income would come in the form of the commission from the hotel. So, it's been a flawed system for many, many years, I think, on the travel agency side of it. And it's nobody's fault, it's not the client's fault that that's how it was. There was no line item for travel agents. It's just like, oh, they get paid by commission from the hotels. And of course, in 2018, I think 17, 18, we saw Marriott cut group commissions from 10% to 7% across the board. And then Hyatt and Hilton followed. And so there you go. The whole industry basically lost 30% profit income year over year if you do group hotels. So we just found ourselves totally susceptible to everything that's out of our control, right?
Hmm.
No way had control over our income. We saw it go from 10% to 7% year over year. And we can't not provide our clients options of Marriott's and Hyatt's and Hilton's, and Marriott owns everything. So they could do that. But then with the pandemic, we start booking tours, let's say in October for something that might go in March, in 6 months of, negotiating contracts and getting options and going back and forth and managing the room block with every city. And we didn't charge anything for that. And so March 8th came and all like 11 tours on our roster, wiped out in a day. And because I think, we have things well organized, it didn't take us very long to go through our list and just cancel everything that we had booked and realize that we aren't owed anything. We in no way had ourselves protected for the situation where we didn't have cancellation fees in place and we hadn't charged anything for the upfront planning. So I had paid a team of people for 6 months, based on a spec of commission that we had anticipated receiving. And as we know, those commissions come in 30 to 180, days if you're lucky after a stay. And that's a whole job in and of itself to find and chase those commissions. So
Mhm.
yeah, so we're like, this isn't going to work. We're not going to be able to reopen after the pandemic like this. So we did a lot of work over the whole on all levels. One of the biggest things being what's our business model and what's our fee structure. And we value our work, we value our time. I mean, you know, I could give you a thousand.
Do a lot of work. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and 1,000 reasons why, not the least of I'm a mother of 2 who pays somebody, my hours are not free in the first place. So, and I'm also, I have an amazing team of agents that have experience running, 30 plus years on the road or in travel. So it's just figuring out what the value is of our time, how to, put that into words and start charging it and start believing in it and sticking to it.
Yeah. I feel like you had mentioned that one of the things that really helped you like see things in a bigger picture. Well, one of the
Yeah.
things that was interesting is you talked about how you would work so hard on your clients' behalf to make sure none of them had cancellation penalties. So they didn't pay anything when, this
Yeah.
had to get canceled. But it was like you were looking out so much for your clients' interests, but yet then you overlooked your best
Well, and
interest
we did
at nothing.
actually when it happened in March, we said, okay, these hotels were ready for check-in. I mean, some of them were for today, like,
Okay.
and, 20 to 60 rooms, every name change. I mean, we'd been literally working with these hotels like right up until, so we're like, our client knows how far into this we are. We can't have done this for nothing, you know.
Yeah.
So we created invoices of lost commission. And it was very brave of us to like go, well, do we want to like lay out what we were expected to make? And it's like, well, it's not like it was zillions of dollars, it was, but I mean, it was a $1,500 commission from this hotel we've been working on for 6 months. And so we created those and, we work really closely with our clients. So we just were very transparent and said, here's this, I know we're all in the same boat where now we're all just losing money and nobody knows when this is going to come back to life. But, this is what we've lost with this cancellation. And being that we hadn't had it in terms and conditions, it was kind of this send it and pray thing versus,
Yeah.
hey, we need to set this understanding in advance. This is now a written, hey, let's have a term and condition. let's have an expectation, that if the work is delivered, that if the trip gets canceled, the stay gets canceled, then we will charge that money. So we
Mhm.
have a 10% cancellation fee.
Signature. Yeah.
Yeah. And if it's a rebooking, of course, I mean, again, we're always on the side of our client, like if it's a rebooking, if it's a reschedule, we're changing it, we're moving it, we're not charging, we're like not swiping it for 10%, it's like we feel for it. But if it goes off the schedule, and because of our negotiation years of experience and the clauses that we work very hard to get, put in our contracts so that we're protecting our clients, we get them out of 100% of the hotel stay, then, it's a small price to pay, the 10% that they
Yeah.
all locked down, ready for turnkey arrival.
Hmm.
So, yeah, so it's cancellation fees, protecting the commission that you're working towards, and then planning fees up front, which we do $250 per city for group hotels and $100 per hotel for individual hotels. So couple, 2, 3 band members, somebody going on a leisure trip, a manager going out to see the group and staying in a different city. A lot of times it's 4 different options. We want to know size of the room. Sometimes we need to know the size of the desk in the room or the bathroom. So it's $100 for us to engage in the research negotiation using our network to get discounts, billing where they're just handing you the key when you walk in the room and then the folios in the portal. And, I think it's worth $100.
Yeah, definitely. And when you're coming up, like when you're deciding to charge fees, you kind of, y- you took Asta's VTA program
Yeah,
on fees. And what was your experience with that?
it was awesome. I mean, I was like reading quotes from that, to my colleagues after. Yeah, I did both VTA, the Verified Travel Advisor program during the pandemic. I was like, let's check some things off the list here while my children were, driving me insane. Uh, and it was just so enlightening. I mean, I could start telling you all the highlights of it, but basically it was that travel advisors didn't start out by being free.
Hmm.
No, what the original name of ASTA was?
I know this because when I wrote the roadmap course, it was in
Uh,
the timeline in the beginning. And now I'm so embarrassed. Tell me. I don't remember.
the American.
The steamship.
Yeah, yeah, Steam. Yeah, I was gonna say
Something with the Steamships Association.
Travel Association or something.
I'm going to
Yeah.
send this to the ASTA people, and they're going to be so impressed that we are regurgitating kind of this information.
Well, I am the event planner for the Midwest regional chapter of ASTA. Is another thing I joined in.
Ah, that's
Yeah.
exciting. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
We'll put a link in for the like VTA fees course because I've heard from multiple
Yeah.
advisors that it was really eye opening.
What just gives you that confidence. It's like he's great. He does a lot of those courses. I can't remember whatever, but they're like the commission from the hotel to the agent does not pay for the work the agent does for the client. That's money brought, from the hotel to the agency based on the volume of work that you bring to them, the work you're doing together to like button up the group. It's like a whole project management thing. It's like that's what that's for. Why am I relying on all my income to come from a hotel when I'm working on behalf of my client 15 hours a day, around the
Yeah.
just did not make sense. And again, it's not our client's fault. They were
No.
That's how it worked.
Well, like, yeah, like, I think a lot of clients don't understand because I think there's also, even when most advisors aren't charging fees, there was always this perception that travel advisors were more expensive to book with, which isn't
Yeah.
the case. And what's interesting too, and we're kind of talking about how it doesn't like commissions only, it's really hard for agents to make ends meet depending on what your niche is and what you're doing. But we just started publishing our annual travel advisor income reports and
Uh-huh.
we're publishing it in the next couple days, but the average income, and this is last year, of course, but the average income in 2020 for a full-time travel advisor dropped to $11,000. I mean, it just killed. We were
Yeah.
decimated by the pandemic. So I'll put a link to that if people want to take a look, but it's, you're essentially the success of your business is in the hands of other people when you're relying solely on commissions. There are advisors that don't believe in charging fees, and that's totally fine. But I think it's something that people should really examine on if this makes sense for them or not. And if it's something you're nervous about, the Ask a VTA course is a great option for
Yeah.
them. I'll link to, we have an article series that helps people about charging fees and things to think about and how to implement
Yeah.
it that I'll link to too.
I mean, like you said, it's just taking it in, control back. Like, what is it going to take? I mean, it's not free to run this business. Subscriptions. I mean, we're a GDS agent. I've got four to,
Yeah.
we pay subscriptions. We pay for system. We're a business. We have insurance, we
Time
have rent.
consuming.
And I am not willing to do it alone because, that's how I started. And obviously, if you've got a smaller book of business, you're alone. But in my industry, there's so many fine details that I don't care how small your clientele is or what, it's too many details for one person. You need a second set of eyes on things and stuff. So I'm not willing to like shrink down and do it alone because I don't think that I can provide the kind of service that I think the client deserves without a team.
Okay.
So for me, it's like we're a team. We have a team available to you, which makes it a more reasonable lifestyle for us, in order to like actually do this as a sustainable job.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
You worked with a pricing strategist too, kind of. We'll talk about the rebrand in
Good.
just a second, but
Good.
when we're talking about the fees, you worked
Yeah.
with a pricing strategist to try to figure out what makes sense. So what did you learn during that?
Yeah.
And I didn't even know there was such a thing as a pricing
Yeah.
strategist, so that's really neat.
Jenny Niemela from Illume Pricing. It's also, a woman-owned business here in the Minneapolis area. I met her through an organization that I'm part of called BWC, which is Business Women's Circle. And she was one of our speakers, her and her partner that started that firm. Jenny is also a copywriter, so she's marketing minded. So it's basically kind of examining your expenses and what do you need to charge? Like, what do your hours cost? What does it cost you to run this business? So using all your P&Ls and whatever, if you've got payroll and staff, to examine what it is that you need to charge to be able to like stay open. And then also kind of like what is the value of what you're providing? It's complicated. It's not simple, but what is the value of what you're providing and what is that value to your clients? It's like, can they do it themselves? Can they not? Like, can somebody just book online or like, what are we? So the reason I bring up that she has an experience marketing and copywriting is that they also then provide you with value message, which is like a big part of it. One of the interesting things she kind of teaches is like getting on the brain waves that your clients already have. Like, what is something else that they associate with this dollar amount and what makes it easier to compute? Like, so for
Yeah.
example, our planning fee is $250 a city. Most of our clients budget, maybe not most, but maybe, 175, 200. If and it's like, so our planning fee is one room night,
Hmm.
and it's like, oh, one room night, because our clients are like a rooming list of 60 people for 3 nights and one room night, like
Yeah.
each of those people is three. This rooming list is 100, 180 room nights. One room night is what you're paying for us to manage that project for 6 months. So it's stuff like that, like getting on the brain, like the brain waves of what do they already, what do they compare things to? Where are they like price sensitive and where are they not price sensitive, So it's interesting.
Yeah. And I know this is something that we're going to get like questions on. So I'm going to ask this. And this is assuming we didn't scare people away when we told them that travel advisors made $10,000
God,
or
yeah.
$11,000 a year. But if someone was like, this is such an awesome career, I'm really interested in this, or I want to switch gears and go into this, I'm assuming you can't just call up the Black Eyed Peas manager and be like, hey, I want to book your travel. So how do people, what advice do you have for people that are interested in getting into this or kind of dipping their toes in?
I know. I always think this is a hard one because it's like, in my experience, it really is who and do you have some experience in that arena already? So it's hard for me to imagine just like, I want to handle that band's travel without like getting that it's 24 hours a day and it might be 15 phone calls about one car service. And before we charged fees, we didn't get any, like now we charge $25 for a car service, which is still super affordable depending on how many emails it is. Uh,
Hmm.
so like I think I mentioned to you, whenever people ask me how do you get into touring, my advice is always get involved wherever you live. I mean, if you want to tour as a tour manager or production coordinator, work at the local theater, like try to be a production runner at the Target Center, which means you'd be working 20-hour days and like possibly humping cases of water for 4 hours, like like that's how you kind of get around the business at the beginning. So as far as getting into the travel side of it, if you're already a travel advisor, like the whole thing is, I mean, the reason it's profitable is because it's groups, the bigger the group, the better. I mean,
Hmm.
and so for us, I mean, that's volume is key, right? It would be starting by handling your local high school band trips. I mean, that's the same thing. You're going to be working with a big group of people going to one city. I find it's like I'd rather make a reservation of 60 rooms than one. That's why I struggle with doing leisure stuff because it's like, it's just so much emotion tied into like one reservation. If you're a local travel advisor who does leisure travel and you're kind of interested in expanding into that, it would be getting to know the local companies and and the schools or universities. I know a bunch of travel advisors that do university athletics travel. That's a lot
Hmm.
of coach bus movements and maybe,
Mhm. And well, another thing, Molly, that might be helpful, and I'm not sure, so you'll have to let me know, but you connected with a bunch of other like production travel advisors during the pandemic and started the ETAC. Do you call it ETAC?
ETAC. Yep.
Yeah. And so since you're the president, I think you'd be a great person to tell us about what ETAC is, who should be
Yeah.
joining it. Like maybe people interested in this type of travel can get some educational stuff. Tell us more about it.
Yeah. So ETAC is the Entertainment Travel Advisors Coalition, which like 30 of us agents started during the pandemic just by starting to have Zoom calls and communicate and, talk about originally unemployment and the PPP and all these things that I'm thankfully forgetting, erasing them from my brain.
Except for the ERC, we're still dealing with that, trying to get it back.
The EIDL, the PUA, yeah, like all of it. But yeah, so I mean, we have actually a 5-year experience minimum to join each, because it is meant for experienced entertainment agents that work in some realm of entertainment production travel. But yeah, our website is etac.online, and that, you can read about everybody and who they are and why we started. And we just banded together, like a lot of based on the fee, and the cancellation fees, and just talking to each other, like, what are you doing? What are we doing? And we had been talking prior to this, like with the Marriott cuts, and like, what if they go to 5%? What if they go to zero? Like, we're just not, in control of us even having like a lasting career. So what do we
Yeah.
do to change that? So yeah, so that's ETech, and it's, you know what, it's in the baby band developing stages. Of course, especially after we all got thrown back into the fire, like in July and August when touring just went gangbusters this year. So again, another volunteer thing that, we started, and it's all on us. So it's in the
Yeah.
growing stages. We have 30 something members. But yeah, I mean, it's a good idea to, like, for me to hear, should we create some sort of like educational component, like a pathway for new people to kind of go into that industry? And that is one of our goals.
Well, we'll put a link in the show notes, like I
Yeah.
said, so people can check it out if they want, if they have feedback.
You could
Great
do
way to get
feedback.
people's foot in the door.
Yeah, exactly.
What defines a luxury river cruise? Is it the elegance of your environment? Is it the richness of your experiences? Is it the indulgence of your culinary appetite? At Uniworld, everything is included and every detail is carefully considered, designed, and delivered to make your journey unique and unforgettable. Contact your travel advisor or visit uniworld.com.
Okay, so your agency is pretty unique in that everyone, well, almost everybody that works on your team has worked in production with the different bands. So, has that been helpful in helping you find new clients, or how do you find new clients?
Yeah. And then one thing, sorry, I just had a thought back to the last question I want to answer is like, if I'm overlooking the idea, if you're an experienced GDS agent, you can
Mhm.
probably get a job at any entertainment agency in the country, because like if you're an agent who has experience cranking out hotels and flights, uh,
Mhm.
in the GDS, that is a highly sought after skill,
Yeah.
from myself and all of my colleagues and peers in entertainment, because it's flights and international exchanges, you know. So if you're interested in getting into it, and you're an experienced agent, even maybe like tapering off in your career, but you have that skill, call me.
Yeah, and those of you that don't know the GDS, I'll put a link to what it is. It's a skill, like Molly says, and it's a highly
Yeah,
sought after skill, and it's
Sabre,
one that's hard to.
Span, Amadeus, Galileo. There's a few, there's several of them. Well, a handful of GDSs, but the global
Mhm.
distribution system where you can hold and ticket flights and cars and hotels. So
Yep.
anyway, I was like overlooking that experienced person who, I mean, you would be very valued in an entertainment agency.
Mhm.
New clients. Yeah. I mean, yes, definitely word of mouth. Social media, we did with the rebrand, relaunch the website, and we started out doing, pretty heavy social media, which I found was not sustainable for my own personal,
Vanity.
like, yeah, just in my personal interest professionally. I just couldn't focus as much time on it. So you'll see from our feed, it tapered off a little bit, which is fine. It's like, it's social media. But that would be the way that we like got our new name out and LinkedIn. And then, I mean, there's a couple industry, you know, trade shows, conferences. One of them is called Live Production Summit, which is traditionally in Tucson at the beginning of each year. And Polestar is another one in LA. That's a big conference. So those would be like in-person kind of networking opportunities. But otherwise, yeah, online, social media groups, and then just conversation.
Well, okay, so last question for this segment. This is an important question too, and I'm sure other people are curious. So you worked with lots of big bands, like we said, Black Eyed Peas, Brit, Ricky Martin, Janet
And just
Jackson,
to
the
clarify,
Jackson 5.
I didn't do all their travel as a travel agent. I toured in various capacities on those
Well,
tours.
okay. Thanks
Yeah.
for clarifying and
Yeah.
ruining my like vision of you up there dancing with Britney and like
Oh, that I was. Yeah. I was backstage coordinator for the circus tour and then I was the road manager for the dancers in 2016 and 17, band and dance.
so you did dance with them. No, just kidding.
And I wings. Absolutely. Yeah.
So is
Stage
this
left.
what you said we needed to do?
I was stage left. I'm like a professional road mom. So
Well, okay, so which of the bands, because and this is either I feel like it's for touring and not actually for booking travel, but what was your favorite like tour that you were on?
it's hard because every tour was a favorite for a different reason. But I have to say my one like standout favorite tour that I ever did was the Glee live in concert tour
Uh-huh.
in 2011, I think. And it's just because it was like just this tiny little capsule in time. It was 5 weeks during the cast's summer hiatus. They made him go on tour.
I know, it's like, oh, it's a little
They were
sad.
not happy about it. Yeah, because the whole television industry is on hiatus, and they're like, "You're getting on a bus." But it was so fun. It was fun because I was the road manager for the band, the dancers, and the warblers. And if you're a Glee fan, you'll know who the warblers are.
Mhm.
And so it was just like all these, kids that were just so happy to be there. It was so exciting. It was like the Beatles, like because the whole cast was on tour. I mean, Leah Michelle, Corey Monteith, like they were all on tour. I was the vice principal of the tour, the road manager, and then my boss and good friend Angie Warner was the principal and the tour manager of the cast. So she had the cast on a private plane, and I had the band dancers and warblers and glam. Like, so it just was fun because it was like TV, it was pop, it was crazy. We just did a handful of weeks in the States, and then we went to England and Ireland, and like we broke all the records at the O2 Arena in
Oh,
London
wow.
we were doing matinees
Mhm.
because it was like it had such a wide draw, Glee, that was kids too,
Yeah.
so it was so fun. And I just made so many great new friends on that tour.
Well, that's a fun way for you to end kind of the touring part of your life, because then you started the agency right after, right?
No, I did a couple more years. That was in 2011, and then after that I toured with Janet Jackson and then the Jackson Brothers, and then I did another tour with Alicia Keys.
Oh, man alive.
So,
Well, let's move into talking about your rebrand, because I'm really
okay.
excited about that, because I loved when you launched your rebrand. Like my LinkedIn feed was always catching my eye, and I got like what I loved about it was that it told me so much about your business and your values and your goals through
Yeah.
this rebrand. And I'm gonna link to the Molly's LinkedIn profile in the show notes in case anyone wants to like go look back at those and how she did it. But what prompted you to do this rebrand from Smart and Savvy Travel over to the Optimist Travel? Like, where did that name came from and the idea behind it?
Yeah, so it started out with just wanting to refresh the logo and then kind of realized that everything was leading into really elevating the agency and like growing it up. Like, I need better systems and processes, that allow us to take on more clients so that everything's really streamlined. It's not like all just a text to Molly. Like, I don't like my seat, like this
Hmm.
needs to get it out of my brain and into a place that this company can run it. So through that, I ended up moving into a full rebrand and name change instead of just a logo change. And which then took me another 3 months because, it's like harder than naming your child. Uh, and I just wanted something that stuck, like something that like was meaningful and would give us like something to, like a basis for our company and our values and our ethos, and just really wanted something that was like catchy. Like, who do you call, who do you want to call? My son was just the Ghostbusters for Halloween. Who do you need in your corner? Who can help us with this? Let's call the optimists. So I wanted something like that. What happened? I had a phone conversation that was kind of just bringing me down, and I was emptying the dishwasher for the 450th time that week in 2020. And was like, oh, like, what about that conversation just drove me nuts? How can I get that conversation like out of my like life? And I was like, oh, it's the pessimism. Like, it was just like, oh, well, that's da da da. And oh, Minnesota. Oh, that's cold there. And I'm trying to do this. And so then I'm like, what's the opposite of pessimism? Because of course I'm like brainstorming for 3 months. Optimism. Okay. Optimism. Okay. It's not horrible. And like, I'd been brainstorming with my team, and Cindy had an O in her mind for some reason. She envisioned an O. If this could be Cindy's O. And I'm like, that's kind of awesome. Like, and then of course there's the Optimist Club and different stuff. It was like, yeah, I think that has like staying power. I think
Does.
like, I mean, here's my little sign, be optimistic, which I got from my friend Kathy Hansen. So, there's just like, I wanted something like that where it could be riff off of things that we found elsewhere, or like, so yeah, so that's how we land. And then I'm like, we can be CEO, chief executive optimist or chief financial optimist, like that. Who doesn't want that in their company? So
Yep. Well, I feel like when I say rebrand, I feel like it does you an injustice because it's way too soft of a like description. Like you did a complete business overhaul. It wasn't, just the logo and the brand colors and a new website. To me, it felt like you deconstructed your business and you really looked at how you wanted to recreate your business, like with this 10 years of experience you had, into one that was like more efficient and dialed in, that reflected your values and communicated exactly what it was going to be like to work with you. Like that's what I mean, I just got all of that from seeing stuff in my feed. So, did you, because as another business owner, my mind kind of starts deflating thinking about all the work behind it. So did you
yeah,
do this on your own or how did you manage such a comprehensive overhaul?
no, I did it. I work with a colleague of mine, Meg Murphy, who works with me in the capacity of an integrator. So she kind of helped me take everything out of my brain and put it into a timeline and help everything move forward. And then my team members, Cindy and Flo, like we had a weekly status call with Meg where she kept us moving forward on the to dos. So things like researching a client portal, we would have a call on Thursday, and then we would assign these different things to each of our team members, and we would reconvene the next Thursday with notes that we each had done different stuff. So that's kind of how we got through the chunks of documents, process. Like, we use Travel Joy as a CRM, and we used to use it for leisure stuff, but it's like, let's really do it. So we would do training on some of those status calls. And then a lot of them were then about the branding. We worked with an incredible creative agency here in Minneapolis called Superhuman. And they gave us like a really amazing opportunity to work with them on kind of a friends and family basis because of working with, they believed in the project, and they wanted to work within a niche that they didn't kind of already exist in, travel
Mhm.
and entertainment. So, one week we would have a call with them, and then that would like, they would present to us. And then 2 weeks later, we would refine with them, and that kind of thing. So we like chipped away at this thing from last I can, Meg came on with me, I think in like October or something. And then we were shooting for relaunch in March. And then I think we finally like pressed play on the website like May
Hmm.
of 2021. So no, I am a big believer of collaboration and working with a team. And like I said, I'm unwilling to do it alone. So we just kept chipping away at it.
Yeah, well, we'll link to Superhuman. So if people are
Yeah.
interested, if they're, especially if they're trying to break into travel, reach out to these
Yeah.
people. So let's see. And then I'd commented earlier about how your rebrand, like you were able to just communicate exactly what you provide and what a client can expect. And that was really impressive to me because it was succinct and it was very like clear what you were trying to say. So did this all come the did a lot of this come from your communications background, or was this from working with these different companies and contractors?
I mean, I would say the root of it is from since I started working or since I joined BWC, the Business Women's Circle.
Mhm.
Um,
Is that in other cities, do you know, or is it just Minneapolis?
they are in Minneapolis, St. Paul now, and she is like looking at expanding into other cities.
Okay, we'll link to them too then if anyone's
Yeah,
interested. Maybe they'll be in your city.
yeah. Um, and I mean, at this point, we're still meeting virtually, so maybe she'll open it up, to other cities or whatever. But that is, we're in a circle of other business owners in similar size businesses typically. So we kind of like it used to be based in traction, if you know that book,
Mm,
Steph.
uh,
It's a common now you'll like see it everywhere, but that's what it's based in. So there's like exercises. So one of the exercises was called the VTO. It's a vision traction organizer. And so it's 5-year goal, 1-year goal, kind of values. So I've done a lot of work over the years in getting that value statement, getting that elevator pitch, that kind
mhm.
so it's an evolution of three or 4 years of that and changing it. And so I had kind of the framework, from Smart and Savvy Travel and knew, for years it's like, I want to tune up my accounting. Okay. Well, then the pandemic provided this time to like, that stuff's the easy stuff. Like, let's get some systems in place and let's get some terms and conditions and some cancellation fees in place and kind of streamline our processes. But yeah, I've been working on that kind of stuff for like 3 years, and it's about communicating your values and clarifying and simplifying and
Yeah, and speaking of values, so on the other side of that, it felt like with the rebrand, you were kind of baking your values into your business, which is honestly one of the things I love most about being a business owner is you can kind of be the vehicle of change you want to see. We've
yeah.
all worked for other people and been like, I would never do that at my company. Like, I always want to value this. So, I think is on your site, you said, and hold on, let me pull this quote up. We're changing our business model to create sustainable jobs for our team and leaning into what we do best, not just booking travel, but proactively managing it. So, when you talk about sustainable jobs, what does that mean to you and why is that so important?
Well, we're an experienced team, I mean,
Hmm.
I loved college, did well, knew I wanted to have a career that involved travel. Touring pays well when you're on the road, obviously, because you're gone 24/7, but you're working hard and you get hopefully compensated for it. And so, I mean, my team, that's the world we come from. We're not like doing this as a part-time hobby, paying out of pocket because we want to see a concert, like
Yeah.
we are I'm 42 years old now, had I not gone this direction, I would be an executive at a corporation if I worked at the same place for 20 years. And I'm like, like, do I deserve an assistant? It's like, dude, like, let's run this like a real business. Like, we have experience of moving hundreds of people around the world, every allergy, every middle name. It's high level details, And so it's like, I'm looking to find out if this is a sustainable way to continue my career at this point in my life. just like, everything coming out of the pandemic. Like, what do we want to leave behind and what do we want to bring with, it can be lucrative, right? Like it's great when business is booming and commissions are getting paid. It can be lucrative enough to pay for a team of, very experienced people to do the work. So that's kind of where we're coming from with that.
Yeah, I love the idea of like just saying sustainable wages for the team because I think like to me if I'm a client that like makes me feel like oh good like I'm glad I don't want to go support places where the CEO is making millions and millions and then the staff is making $18 an hour
Yeah.
or like $12 an hour. Like I want to know that people are treated well when I'm giving business to that company.
Yeah, and also that is what prevents turnover. And that is like the biggest frustration of this industry is people go, "Oh, I get a different agent every time I call." Or, like I'm in the middle of a tour and an agent rolls over and leave, like to a different agency or something, or they get taken off of my project. And now I'm just like explaining everything from the beginning. We don't have that. Like it's
Yeah.
very, very personal relationship. And we've had the same team for, you know, since I started, added more people, but creating a sustainable wage so that we can not have turnover and invest in our team and invest in trainings and educations and improving our our skills and our processes and our systems for our clients is important.
Mhm. Yeah, I love that it helps because it sounds like you in a lot of ways, a lot of people would age out of touring if they wanted to start a family because it's just not sustainable to be on the road almost
Yeah.
the whole year if you're starting a family. So it gives some other options for that. One of the other things I ran across on your site was you were talking about being committed to practicing allyship and improving the communities that you exist in both locally and globally. So, what are some ways you have or that you have plans to improve the communities that you're existing in? Like what kind of social responsibility came with this rebrand?
Yeah, again, it's just something we, wanted to make public to hold ourselves accountable to it. Of course, being in Minneapolis and, with the murder of George Floyd and the uprising last year all over the country. And whew, we were in election time last year. Whew,
It's been a year.
yeah. Yeah. Like we don't want to just leave that in 2020. I'm committed to furthering my own journey in anti-racism. I'm committed to improving diversity, equity, and inclusion within our own company, within my own family, both my personal and professional network. That's also one of our goals and values of ETAC is to continue like with the education piece, create educational opportunities, create doorways into this industry, share our knowledge, like collaboration over competition. So, yeah, locally, for my team, we compensate our employees for a certain number of hours per month in order for them to volunteer. We provide a certain dollar amount of pro bono travel management services for nonprofits. And I was like, oh, where is it going to make sense for us to provide pro bono services? Like, not a lot of food shelves are booking flights or,
Yeah.
like, and then it's come up several times. There's an organization called Touring Professionals Alliance that was also created through the pandemic of roadies, supporting roadies, touring professionals. And they did a big sort of food drive with local restaurants last year, feeding unemployed event staff. And
Okay.
they sent a production manager to each city and they'd stay in a hotel and we were able to waive our fees and realize okay this is helping them, this
Mhm.
is a great service. We also were able to do that with the National Museum of African American Music for a travel project that we managed for them, which was awesome.
'Cause that's not
And
something I think I hear about. Actually, I think this is the first time I've ever heard of an agency, like, vocalizing that they do things like this to give back to the communities.
Yeah, I mean, it's again, it's like if we're gonna redo this and do this right, like let's, and that's kind of the optimists. The name of the company is the Optimists. I don't know what the 10-year picture. I have to look at my VTO for you or tell you what it is, but it's like, it's maybe it's not just travel management. Maybe we have an annual volunteer function that we're able to organize for local people. Maybe there's an events element to it. We also do travel for festivals and retreats, and where we're starting to look at, putting an optimist on the retreat where we're actually like managing the travel on the ground. So it's exciting to think about, where it may go, but we always want to kind of keep that ethos as part of what we're doing, and like we say, always people first. And so, anything that we commit to is going to be focused on people and also sustainability in travel.
Yeah. So switching gears a little bit, I kind of wanted to talk about you. You have a remote team that you work with, and I think they're all located in the United States, right?
Yes.
So how do you hire and find people for your team? Like what characteristics are you looking for that's really important for you that fit with remote working and kind of yeah, what characteristics are important and how do you find them?
Well, I mean, up to this point, I've been, just extremely lucky. Bobby, my first full time employee, came to me through Bonnie Lee, Travel Quest. And so Bobby's worked with me. So, I mean, that's just a unique situation. And so most of my team has been with me for several years. So I'm actually kind of getting back into the hiring space. One of the main things that we're focusing on is equitable hiring,
Mhm.
which actually, includes taking off gender from the application, taking off age from the application because it doesn't matter. So we're getting into like learning about equitable hiring practices through HR resources. And for me personally, my next hire is going to be somebody that can work with me in person locally,
Mhm.
at least 2 days a week.
And this is for like the assistant kind of that the admin assistant
Yeah.
you're looking for?
Yeah. Yeah. It's primarily like admin, may teach them the GDS, but to work locally. But instead of thinking, oh, it's got to be somebody like just lives within 5 miles because nobody's going to want to come out to where, whatever. Like, no, does that mean we need to have a public transportation stipend in addition to the salary? Like, we want to have a wide pool of applicants outside of our specific area and outside of our specific network. And so those are kind of logistical details, that we're working on in order to create an equitable hiring
Mhm.
practice. And also kind of like like we created an internship job description as well for the social media part of it, and looking at working with some other industry organizations who have like apprentice and internship programs. One of those being Diversify the Stage, which is another great organization started by Noelle Skaggs of Fits in the Tantrums. So see if we can work with them to create an internship for one of their upcoming students.
So I think one of the hardest things when people are looking at building a remote team is like one of the challenges is like building that sense of community when everybody and keeping everyone on the same page when
Yeah.
everyone lives in different areas. So how do you make that happen at the Optimists?
Well, I would say the Mockstra portal was the biggest move that we did towards that, which is like creating a virtual office. It shows who's here, you're green or you're red or you're busy or away. It's linked to our calendar. It's We have like chats, so we have like a whole team chat, then we have a chat with basically each of our agents between each other, as well as our clients in there. So it's really slick, and to like just, hey, are you
Yeah.
doing this? Yes. And you can create to-do lists and check them off. You can assign them to each other. You can assign a client a to-do. So it's like, hey, review the rates from San Francisco and let us know. and they can check off the to-do list. So that has leveled the playing field nicely. I wanted to get things out of text.
Yeah.
It's, when I get a work text, I'm like, I'm never going to read this. I don't know. I'm going to forget it's here. I'm driving. I have a 2-year-old. Like, so yeah. So that's been great for us too. And I'm sure a lot of teams use Slack and all the various project management stuff.
I'll put a link to Sococo, which I think I mentioned to
Oh
you
yeah.
before. It sounds like it's very similar to Sococo with this
Okay.
virtual office. Okay, so I think the other thing we chatted on too that has really helped both of us is like having weekly team meetings. Like ours, we have Monday, we have it last for 2 hours, and then Thursdays it lasts for about an hour, so we can all like catch up with each other and get on the same page and talk about ideas.
Yeah. Yeah, we do that as well. Myself, I have Meg and I have one on Mondays and then the whole team on Thursdays. And then that's when we'll like assign something. And ideally, like we have 90-minute status calls and we
Hmm.
have Moxtra as well, which also serves as a meeting platform. And it's nice to like actually work during those, like, hey, we need to talk about commission invoicing. Let's bang out these 3 commission invoices. Or now there's a whole proposal process in our work because we're
Hmm.
charging fees. So it's not just, we don't just launch into the work immediately. So we'll try to like work on the proposal together during the team status, so that I actually get it done. Because otherwise it's just going to live in that.
It's
Not,
questionable.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think this is kind of a good time to move into like start wrapping things up, move into our last segment, which means we need to cue the warm fuzzy segment music. And Molly, I don't want to put pressure on you, but I am so excited for this because how fun is it that I have an optimist that's giving us a
Oh,
warm
God.
fuzzy? So, like, if there's something that someone did that kind of brightened your day, or something you did for someone that makes us be like, this is why we're in this industry, even though sometimes it freaking is very hard and sucks when you only make $11,000 a year and you're working full time and canceling all your work from the previous year.
I will literally get a job at the Dairy Queen. $11,000. And I love working at the Dairy Queen. Uh, I mean, honestly, I guess I don't have any, like, my brain doesn't go back too far. So it's just like the little texts, I think, that's like, you are seriously a miracle worker. And you're like, yes, you know,
Yeah.
and it's like, can I screenshot this and like share however they do those sharing thing? Like, like, so, and then, which then I think has just led to, in our case, like referrals to other clients, and that like, this is your team. They're amazing. Like, so those, I think, just kind of little comments and thank yous back, because everybody's flying by the seat of their pants out here, and everybody industry is still trying to recoup 2 years of unemployment. And so it's like, it's less about the amenities and just more about like being available and like a confidant and a reliable source for your client. So I think it's those.
Mhm.
We've just had, kind of several little comments back where, whether it's, y'all are the best, and that it's like, yes, that's why we do this, like, it's thank yous from clients as of late that, remind us why we
Keep you
keep doing
going.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing. And it's kind of bittersweet because I had such a good time in this episode, but it's also time to wrap things up. So, Molly, you're fantabulous for being so open with your expertise and kind of sharing your experience. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Reminder,
So
if there's anyone that's a new advisor listening to this, don't forget you can see Molly's cameo appearance on Asta's roadmap to becoming a travel advisor course with me. And I think it's at asta.org/, and you can use the HAR 149 code to get it 50% off. And then last but not least, don't forget we are doing host week coming up in January. So sign up for host week reminders and save your spot at hostagencyreviews.com/host week. That is all for now, folks. Thank you so much.
thank you. Bye.
You can read a transcript, view the show notes with a link to all the resources we mentioned, and watch a video of today's episode all in one place. So head on over to hostagencyreviews.com/TAC and click on episode 21. And one last reminder, because I'm really excited about this. So don't forget to grab your free spot for HAR's annual Host Week, which is January 23rd through the 29th in 2020. And if you happen to be listening to this and Host Week has already passed, don't worry, you are not going to miss out on the fun. The free sessions are available to you at your viewing pleasure at youtube.com/hostagencyreviews, and just click on our Host Week playlist.